Another one. So she has an archive of many, many photos. Of course, these are the ones that she shared, but very, very interesting on how precise these are. And of course, you probably have heard every story about Men in Black and everybody coming in or the government and trying to scare the farmers and all these different things. But it's pretty interesting. And so as she and Stan Gordon started talking about what they saw, they started putting their heads together. And there was no internet back then. They had to call each other. And it cost money back then. So, pretty interesting. So you start looking again now at the BFRO map. And then you start looking at cattle mutilations. Again, I love the internet. It's able for us to bring data together that we've never been able to do before. So visual data depiction and visual data displays are super, super important. So what we're able to do now is, believe it or not, you know what I'm going to do next, right? Is overlay the UFO, Sasquatch, and cattle mutilations, and in the different areas of where they've seen. Again, the same states. Everybody see their states up there? Is anybody in here from Oklahoma? Yeah. We do. We have a couple, believe it or not. So, believe it or not, there's a lot of stories and cases, and of course, we get a lot of encounters from Oklahoma and Arkansas. You wouldn't believe that a guy from Washington would be talking about that, but we do get a lot. The other thing that's really interesting is the migration pattern that's been around for a long time. So researchers have started depicting that the migration pattern for this species, once it's here on Earth, assuming it's physical, this is how they migrate. So if you start looking across where the heat map is, up from the Adirondacks down in New York all the way down into Florida, where they call it the Skunk Ape, that information's there as well. You also see across Louisiana, where you have the Honey Island Swamp Monster, the Rougarou, right? All these different creatures, but these are the migration patterns when you start stacking up the different species across there. And we didn't have this until the internet came out and really the new technology, so this is really great, and it's going to take research a lot farther about what this is. The other thing with these encounters that we're getting is that Sasquatch comes in a bullet-shaped craft. Not a sphere, not a cigar shape. Almost all the encounters we have with UFO and Sasquatch across the majority, about 60%, come in a bullet-shaped craft. So I just want you guys to all wrap your head around that as you're watching shows out there and you hear encounters about UFOs. If you hear a bullet-shaped craft, you can almost guarantee that in that same area, in 3 weeks, you're going to hear of a Sasquatch story or a Bigfoot story. These are some of the images that were sent in. This was in Florida, right before a skunk ape encounter. Thought that was pretty interesting. Here was another one from North Carolina. Very interesting craft that was picked up. The other piece is, why don't we see them during the daytime? Has anybody heard that Sasquatch can cloak? Okay, there's two different theories on that. One that it can use infrasound and vaporize the crystals of the water around itself in the mist to depict itself kind of like Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the fact is with cloaking, a lot of times, and these are some of our images, again, if you want to stop by my booth, it'll probably quiet down tomorrow afternoon. I can show you some really cool stuff that's been submitted. But this is a purported sighting of a Sasquatch, not necessarily a blob squatch. I have many of those, by the way. More blob squatches than you can ever imagine. But this is in North Carolina. This is a picture of the animal creeching down taken by a hunter. And there's a picture of a standing. Can everybody see the outline of the creature? Yeah. So what flesh and blood animal has that ability? Of course, a chameleon can blend its way into the environment, but that I can see through. Here's another picture up against a tree. Can everybody see it? Everybody in the back able to see that? If not, you can step up front. I see some people leaning forward there. So again, if Sasquatch was able to do this, what abilities does it have that we don't have? Could it be interdimensional? Sure, it's possible. I'm completely open-minded. I have no blind spots at all. Right? There's a book out called Quantum Bigfoot about quantum physics and interdimensional travel. It's pretty interesting. It's written by Ron Moorhead. But there's a lot of different theories out there. So if you look at this type of information, and these are some of the better photos that I have, and I do have some pretty cool videos as well, you start wondering, what does it have technology-wise that we don't have? I mean, think about what we have when we go out hunting and looking for this thing. Right? We have night vision goggles, we have a drone that can hardly make it 50 feet without crashing or the wind taking it astray. We put up trail cameras, by the way, and believe me, there are not trail cameras everywhere. If you ever flown across the Pacific Northwest up to Alaska, believe me, there's not trail cams everywhere. So for those out there that think that there are, there's not. So what technology does it have? This is a picture of a Sasquatch that was submitted from North Carolina. So we see Sasquatch holding something. All right, a couple things. Sasquatch has been seen many, many times. We've had many, many encounters that it's holding a device of some sort. Could it be a device that allows them to cloak? Could it be a ship? Could it be miniaturized, and when they push the button it maximizes and they board the craft and leave? We don't know. This is another one shot in Australia, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a blob squatch, but also carrying a device. Everybody see the device like an orb? So that one's very, very interesting as well. And then lastly, there's an M.K. Davis video out on YouTube. I actually put it out on our site as well. So he actually has the original Patterson film. They've actually brought it a little bit closer, and you can actually see in this picture, right here, that Patty's actually holding a disc in her hand. So if you want to go out and look at that, it's M.K. Davis, a breakdown on the Patterson DM1 film. It's flat and it's round, and she carries it for about 4 strides. So it's very, very interesting. So before we open up Q&A, has there anybody in this room, by the way, and I love doing this because like the town hall, has anybody had an encounter? Does anybody know somebody that's had an encounter? Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Don.
Yep.
All right, time to wake up. Can you hit the middle one, Scott?
Oh. Thank you.
All right. We should have some Red Bull in here, Don. Like, get people ready for the next session. All right, so Q&As. Anybody have questions and answers? Yeah, go ahead.
I have one question that fascinates. The first pictures you showed of the gentleman in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So I never saw those. So, I mean, those were actual pictures. So why wouldn't that be some sort of proof that some large creature is out there?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it absolutely should be credence to the fact that this story was being told long before the Associated Press. There's many accounts. I mean, if you go back to the Native Americans and a lot of the journals that were written by the cavalry, there are so many different stories that were written. But the 1800s, there was a lot. There's actually one, and it's coming up on our upcoming podcast, there was a juvenile Sasquatch that was actually picked up and put on a train in 1810. And it didn't make its way from western British Columbia to its destination. It actually broke out of the side of the train. That was pretty interesting as well. But as they go back to these historical accounts, and they're starting to bring this information from old print up on, and there's some, by the way, some very archaic libraries still up in the hills where they're actually bringing this stuff back. Believe it or not, still, I think 37% of the world doesn't have telephone service. I mean, we walk around, we all probably have like 1 or 2 devices. But there's still a lot of information that's out there that's not available to us yet. But I absolutely agree with you that this information, this older information, certainly leads a lot more credence to it. Yeah?
Just one more thing. On those pictures, are there names of those gentlemen? Is there a way where you could find the history of that?
Absolutely. Actually, out on our website, there's a section under historical accounts you can go out to, newspaper articles. There's some really cool old newspaper articles that we picked up. We recently had a guy that was 88 years old submit one from Richardson, Alaska. I believe he was stationed up there. And he had a really cool one that he just submitted and I just put up on the website. You're happy to check them out, SasquatchSyndicate.com. But there's a lot of information out there on different encounters. And if there's anything you want, my email address is just Chuck@Sasquatch Syndicate. I'm happy to share information and get you in touch with other folks as well. There was someone out there in the back.
Yes. Do you give any credence to the idea that they're a Sasquatch or they the creatures that we're talking about as subterranean, and that there may be communities of them somewhere underneath the Pacific Northwest or elsewhere?
I have heard that. Out on our website, we recently went to the Ack-ives. You ever heard of that? Out in Mount St. Helens. We did research there with the U.S. Forest Service, and they took us to the upper cave. It's up near Mount St. Helens, up in Skagit Valley, and you can go up there. There's a really cool blog out that I just did. And one thing that's really interesting is a lot of people that call in with encounters report the smell of sulfur, rotten eggs. And when you go into the cave system, anywhere across Oregon, Northern California, and up through Washington State, they all reek of sulfur. Anywhere up around the volcanoes, Mount Shasta, Mount Baker, you go up there. There's been a lot of sightings that they are cave dwellers. I actually have some really great, if you guys want to stop by for those interested in caves, I actually have some great footprint photos that I took in the upper caves at the Ack-ives that the Forestry Service took us in. And they say there's thousands of people that step over these every day. They were about 19 inches long, 9 inches wide, 58 inches apart, and there's 18 of them in the lava beds. They're pretty awesome. Anyways, you can see them also on our blog, but I'm happy to show them to you if you want to stop by.
Oh, I just related to that real quick. You give any credence to the Hollow Earth stuff?
I'm trying to deal with Bigfoot and all the different camps. I'm not saying no. I definitely have heard a lot of different theories about the Hollow Earth theory and Dulce, New Mexico, and underground bases and all the great stuff. But not saying no. I definitely have no blind spots about it. Yeah, appreciate that.
It's great to see you in person, seeing you on TV. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm coming as a skeptic.
Oh, so, fair enough.
Okay, but I still have interest in these things. I'm a science fiction author. One of my ebooks still Bigfoot search and whatnot. So far, I like the way that you're approaching this compared to others. Others seem to be coming from the premise of this actually happened versus, but everyone's got their own thing. So I really like your data, the maps overlaying and whatnot. Now, getting back to what I was saying, maybe there's a reason why we haven't found a body. Because it's not real. I mean, can we at least say that that's a possibility? And is it any coincidence that it's around populated areas where, oh yeah, I saw one too, I almost saw one too.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that say that
they
had bears, right?
And I'm not debunking. I'm a skeptic. There's a difference.
Sure.
But I love the fact that you say, I mean, how come we don't have a body? And after all these sightings, thousands, and not one body? I mean, can you drive that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah. One of the things the 8 camp will always say is that you never find a black bear skeleton in the woods either, and there's 62,000 black bears in British Columbia. Fair enough. Okay. There's been many people though that I've talked to that actually have stumbled across a black bear skeleton, right? So that's out there as well. But the fact is, we have so much anecdotal evidence. So when you go back to the tribes, again, I'll keep going back to the tribes and the other crypto animals that have been discovered recently, there's just too much evidence. There's too much evidence that there should be more investment in the topic. That's all I would say about it. Yeah, but I'm not saying no. Again, I don't have one in my garage that I'm studying, but certainly there. We have one question way back in the room. Great question, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, I would tell you that. Yeah, one thing I just wanted to share is out of about every 100 accounts that call into Sasquatch Syndicate or post to us, about one person out of every 400 wants to come on the air. Okay, so let me just start there. And that's actually with a little bit of coaxing. Sometimes, and we do an NDA, right? Every form that you can imagine, we have them fill out before they come on the air. If they want to mask their name and remain anonymous, they can. But certainly my goal is to promote the research and discovery of a creature, a cryptozoological creature. It's a cryptid, right? So I'm trying to get them to come on the air. And the more people that share their experiences that they have hunting or fishing or gold mining, I've got Army Rangers that will call in. I've got all kinds of different folks, police officers, judges. I've had judges call into the show. they're not going to risk their reputation coming out talking about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. They're just not going to. But that being the case, occasionally we do have somebody that will come on, and they will tell me their encounter. So the stuff I've heard, again, albeit anecdotal at best, has been very, very, very fascinating. I had a question right here.
Now, I heard of a case come out of Russia where the Russian army
The
came
cave.
across the cave and shot the creature.
Mhm.
Is there any validity to that whatsoever?
There are journals and there are Army logs from the Russian Army. I can't recall the name of the Russian Army right now, but that they did come across a creature that was very Neanderthal-like, and they killed it right in the cave. They buried the body and they went away, and no one talked about it. There's many sightings, of course, Yeti, the Yeren, the Yowie, orang pendek. I mean, we can go down the list, but there's over 200 different names across the world for this creature. So there's a lot going on out there. I will tell you, again, I've met with a lot of First Nation tribe elders and a lot of course, Native American tribes, and albeit too that they have their own way to tell stories. I was recently up at Devil's Tower, and they talk about Devil's Tower being clawed by a lady that crawled to the top of the tower, and then a bear attacked, a gigantic bear, and it scratched those big crevices into the side of Devil's Tower. So that's how they tell stories, right? But when you get into the topic of Sasquatch and Bigfoot, it's a totally different show. They're not talking about myth and legend, they're talking about something real. Don, are we?
She has a question.
Okay, how are we doing on time, Don?
I saw you trying.
A few times.
No problem, I'm sorry. Thank
No,
you.
it's all good.
So, 28 years, so I'm from Humboldt County.
Me too.
From Humboldt Indian Reservation, and that's my son right there, James Marshall, and
Can I just stop and say, by the way, Hoopa, do you guys know about the Hoopa Reservation? So where Bluff Creek was filmed up near Willow Creek and Happy
10
Camp?
miles from
Right,
there,
yeah, 10 miles, so
And
very, very populous and a great Sasquatch-rich environment.
So 28 years ago, I was up in the mountains with my ex-husband and my 4 sons. They're my older 4 sons, and I have 4 younger kids now too.
Can everybody hear her, or do you guys want her to come up? Okay.
And my husband, at the time, he was wanting to cut wood, and it was in a burn. And loggers sometimes, when they burn, you can go and cut wood up there, but it was charcoal, and so he told me to take the kids for a walk. And he didn't want us to get soot on our hands. And so I had it packed, and we were gonna go for a walk, and it was kind of in the late afternoon, and the mist had been coming down. We walked a couple of miles, and the mountain was to the right, and it was pretty steep. And I smelled that putrid smell, because I've smelled it before, but I never seen anything. And my oldest son, Peter, he was about 8, Richie was 7, and Keenan and Gordy was 1 and 2. And when I was walking along, I looked up, and they called him the old man in the woods, and we have a Hoopa name for him. He was up pretty far. I mean, not so far I couldn't see him. And it was a pretty steep incline, and half of his body was on the other side of the tree, and half was out, and there was what they call those starting of a burrow was on the tree, and that's how I measured where his head was, because I went back up the next year, and I kind of decided how far it had grown, and he had to have been like over 10 feet, 10 or 11 feet tall by where that burrow was, because I know exactly where it was. And he looked at us. He just looked at us. My son Peter locked eyes with him, and he freaked out. He had a panic attack, and he took off running. The road was this way, and there's a steep hill down this way. And when he took off running, he was going for that steep hill, and I had to dive for him and caught his foot as he went over. And he's jerking and everything, and he would have went down a couple hundred feet. He was scared, and I kept saying, if he was gonna hurt us, he'd be here by now, to hurt
Right.
us. And I fished him up, and we just held hands with the babies on each side and ran all the way back.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah, well, my dad has a story too, from his grandfather, that he met a woman, and my grandfather he was Hoopa, and they used to have a lot of bar and grills back then, clear up to the Oregon border, along by the Syad River and all there, from Bluff Creek, Hoopa, all the way up, and he played dad plays saxophone and his father played saxophone. He met this lady and she was about 5'9" and kind of stout, and she had this really hairy, and she had a gruff voice. We don't know if this is true, but he met her, and every time he would go back to there, he befriended her, and he said, "You must be, part Bigfoot," but he called by the old man in the woods because it was a long time ago when this happened, and she kind of her giggled, and she said that she was, and her siblings was her brother and sister lived in the mountains with the dad, and she's the only one that was human enough to come down.
And by the way, nobody asked me how come we don't have a cell phone video one with everybody carrying cell phones. About almost every encounter when somebody calls, they're so petrified in fright and just they don't know what they're experiencing when they're looking at it. They don't have time to pull out their phone, put in their passcode, finger recognition print to get the camera out, right? So for those that are out there, though, a lot of times it takes your body about 12 to 16 seconds to see what you're looking at. I recently was coming across Oregon, and it was really early at night, and I had a turkey run across the road, and it took me about 15 seconds to figure out what I was looking at when it was coming across at about 5 a.m., so in the headlights. So this happens a lot. Everybody's startled, yeah.
Your research, do you have figured out what they eat? And has anybody ever found either implements or, they have to excrement, things like this, like a bear, you
Sure.
get in the woods, you see excrement, you know what that is, versus a different kind of animal.
Well, we'll talk about food first. I'm not sure if anybody's going to dinner here in a minute, but I'm happy to talk about the scat and feces anytime you want to go over to the booth. I'm happy to show you really great photos too, and I actually have a section on the website about that. But about food, 10 minutes? Okay. About food, huckleberries seem to be a natural food source, of course, for those out there that say, well, blackberries like huckleberries too. That's true. Sweet feed, we have a lot of farmers that call in about sweet feed, and they put it out for their cows and their horses. Apples, down in Georgia we get a lot of encounters. Of course we got Georgia peaches and everything out there. We've heard down in Texas, we get a lot of encounters. So there's an unlimited, you can shoot as many boars as you want in Texas, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that. You can go out hunting at night. And a lot of the Sasquatch encounters we get in Texas are hunters, when they kill a boar, they'll gut it and they'll leave the guts on the ground. And then we'll have people that are out camping, they'll actually see Sasquatch feeding on the guts. And they've just learned to triangulate and come in. There's some really great audio evidence on our site too about hunters and people, what they've recorded. But Sasquatch is trained now. They almost have a feeding system. They know when the gunshots are fired that they can come in and have an easy meal because the hunters will leave everything on the ground. So we see it all. Of course, there's also always a water source in the area. But the things we're mostly looking at when we're out researching is blackberries. There's two reasons for that. Most of the dwellings we see, and I actually met somebody earlier tonight that had some bedding in Texas. I don't know if he made it in here. He's a hunter, but a lot of times the bedding that you'll find is way on the other side of a briar patch or way on the other side of a blackberry patch or something that you and I would never even consider going through. It'll be 800 yards of blackberry vines, and these creatures will burrow their way through. Cliff Barrickman just at the International Bigfoot Conference earlier in September did a really good one up in the Olympic National Forest where they found 6-foot beds. But they spent almost an entire day chainsawing through the blackberry vines to get up there where they were. And it's pretty interesting. But they found areas after they got there where they could have came through. So it's pretty interesting.
I just wonder if you come to terms with the fact that you'll never, humanly possible, a human will never be able to get to the deepest, darkest depths as a lot of the forests, not just all over the world, but here in the United States alone. Have you come to terms with that?
My body has.
Huh?
My body has. When I was 29, I could pack in about 100 gallons of, or 100 ounces of water in my pack, and I could go about 9 miles a day. And I could gather water and sipping straws and boil my water and things like that. I'm down to an ATV now. I drive a Ranger, a Polaris Ranger. So it has to have a pretty good logging road and somebody to get me in where I need to go. So a lot of times before I go out now, I've just kind of lost my step a little bit. But I do have some younger guys that are part of our crew that'll go out, but my body can't keep up if that's the question. The other question is, can I get everywhere I need to go? No, absolutely not. Les Stroud, does everybody know Les Stroud, Spider-Man? He went up to British Columbia, he went 29 miles in. There's a couple different ones he did, and he's even at his depths. He wasn't even close to being to the deepest areas you could get to. Helicopter's probably the best way.
Yeah.
There's also, right?
I'm just thinking about an episode of Survivor Man where he went up with this expert
Todd
where they
Standing. Yeah, I went
lived,
to Todd Standing.
and they had all these trees upside down and
Absolutely.
twisted.
Yeah.
That
thank
was
you,
the
Brad.
best Bigfoot thing I've seen.
Right. And by the way, I only need one of the casts to be real. They don't all have to be real. I just need one to be real, right? And that'll prove everything. So, anyways, I want to thank everybody for coming down, and I hope you enjoyed this session. And I'll be at the booth around noon tomorrow. If you want to stop by, we do have some casts you can hold. We'll get our pictures. And when you see us on Destination America, you can say you knew me when. Anyways. All right, guys. Thanks again for coming.